Now that we're scanning and we've made a few little adjustments such as our gain and our focus, depth and things like that, we can start talking about the different modes. And we're usually scanning just B mode, which is basic 2D ultrasound. We can see that on the screen. Right next to it we do have M mode, and M mode is motion mode, which we're looking at fetal heart rate, pneumothorax, things like that. And go ahead and select M mode and maybe put it through the vessel right there and hit M mode again. It'll start sampling, and what we'll see is that where the green line is intersecting the vessel, that's where we see the same depth, the same change in our image here, representing the black space, the anechoic space. If we were to move that, you would see that when we put through your thyroid, then it becomes all the same sort of image. And again, the depth on the imaging portion of the screen correlates with the depth on the M mode, the bottom portion of the screen when we're sampling. To get out of that, you can hit M mode again, or you can hit B mode, which brings us back home to our 2D imaging. We're also looking at the dual button, which is right next to M mode. Dual screen allows us to have two different sides of an image where you can show things like normal versus abnormal, or a vessel that's patent and compressible. One side is collapsed, the other side might be open. And what you'll see is that there's a bright M on the screen, and you can see that when you move the transducer, you're moving that portion of the dual screen. And if you hit dual again, press the dual button, you'll jump back over to this side, and then that M is bright now. And so you can go back and forth, and what that allows you to do, again, is to show maybe one thing that is normal or abnormal, or patent, or maybe it's got a DVT or something like that. You can demonstrate one to the other and go ahead and hit freeze. When you do that, you have two different dual modes, or two different screens, in order to be able to cine and go back and forth between. So if you press dual again, what that allows is that you can go back and forth between the two images just like you did before. But this time, since you're frozen, you're actually going in a cine loop mode, and you can find that part of the image that you want to keep, and then hit the dual button again to go back, and the same thing where you can cine loop back and forth.
That's nice.
And once you find where you're wanting to go, now this is the point in which you're going to save an image. And save one is going to be set up to save a still image. And if you were to hit save two, what that's going to do is it's going to save a cine loop, and the way that you differentiate those, and you look on the bottom as you start to acquire those images or cine clips, you'll see that the image is just a rectangular square there, whereas the movie has that little movie strip right next to it. And that's one way to look quickly and see how many images and how many cine loops that you have. Go ahead and hit freeze again. And again, to go back to B mode, you can hit the B button, and that brings you back to the 2D imaging. Just like we have dual, we have quad. And quad, if you press it, allows you to have 4 little pictures on your one main screen.
So hit quad again?
Yep. And what that does, as you move through and you continue to press quad, it will give you 4 little pictures all on your one home screen there. This is great for a lot of things. The one that comes to mind right away is maybe doing an AFI.
Yeah, that's cute. I mean, it is kind of nice to get it all on one page.
It is, absolutely.
Nice.
I agree. And so, similar to dual, when you hit freeze, you can press the quad button and find the right image that you want to be able to use the trackball in the cine loop mode and be able to do that, going back and forth.
Nice.
And when you freeze again, you go out.
I could take that if I wanted to.
You could, absolutely, yep. So you hit save one, which again saved the still image. If you wanted to print that, if your machine in order came with a printer, the print button would be just below. And then, you know, I always recommend saving the image prior to hitting print. And then that way you have it saved to the machine as well as your little printout if, again, you chose to have a printer. When you hit freeze, you'll see that right now it's backlit orange. That means it's active and functioning. You also have a little snowflake up in the top corner, which I always like to point out. You know, it's a little symbol. It shows that you're frozen. But the best way to always know things that are active and functioning are the backlight orange on the machine there. So,
can I measure in quad or no?
You can.
So if I was going to do an AFI, I could get all these, and then I could come back and measure. And hit set, and then I have measure again. Over here. Okay.
Yep.
That's really nice feature.
Yep. And we'll discuss more of the measurements underneath the measurement segment. So right now, go ahead and press freeze, and then you're back to B mode, and you just have your single image. A couple things I want to point out is that this screen tilts. So the cart that the Mindray DP50 comes on, you can have one of two heights. And then for users who are taller, or if you need to position the screen for ergonomics, you can tilt this just like that. And then you can also use the iZoom function, which upsamples the image, and right now we have that programmed to F1. In order to do that, we would look through the manual, and we'll discuss that later in the setup portion.
How to set up those F keys.
And you could also contact your clinical specialist or your local sales rep. But right now, I know that we have that select on F1, which is a function key. And when I press that, it upsamples the image to kind of a medium-sized image. And then if we press it again, we go to a full screen image, which is really nice for procedural things. The machines across the bed, it allows you just to be, a little bit better ease of use and viewing size. Yep. And then when we press it again, we go back to our normal size where we see our patient information banner, our images, and the menu, things like that. So again, you have those three screen sizes, which I like to kind of call normal, medium, large, and back to normal.
It's very nice. Are all of these function keys are all programmable as almost quick keys, and depending on what the account would like during the system setup, you can have your applications person over the phone walk you through how to set up those specific keys?
Yes, they are. When we discuss in the setup portion, we'll talk about how those F keys are programmable. They are in the manuals, and they're also very easy to discuss over the phone.
That's really nice. I just have one question about this menu here, which looks like it has a lot of options, which maybe for quick use, we're not going to use a lot of these. Is there anything on here that you feel like is something that you would use often?
There are,
Maybe gray map?
There are a few things, When we talk about some of the things that are unique to the Mindray systems, you see I-beam, which is compounding, and I-clear, which is speckle reduction. Those things, those terms are unique to our Mindray machines. They are found on other places, and different companies will call them different things. So this is the compounding, spatial compounding, and then the I-beam is speckle reduction. And then if we look at the gray maps, different users will prefer different levels of gray. So those things are, we encourage people to get familiar with their systems, and the more time that you have to play with it or manipulate it, knowing that the changes that you make, you don't need to be afraid that they'll be stuck there forever. So that when you're scanning, it's good to play with, the gray maps and maybe the dynamic range, which will change the level of brightness.
Grays,
So if you have a low dynamic range, it's really grainy and crisp and bright. Whereas if you take the dynamic range higher, what you'll find is it's a more smoothed out, lots of gray and things like that. So each exam preset will be set to a different dynamic range, as well as preset and gray maps. And those are things that you just want to manipulate and kind of see what you prefer as you're looking at those.
And if we start manipulating things way out of whack, we can always go back to our
the probe
button and
then
come
reselect.
back to our and
which
is always nice.
If you do that, then that'll bring you right back to the
kind of
preset that we had prior to any changes that we made. So yes, definitely on the menu, it's things to look through, and again, the manual is a nice reference guide to see what those might mean, or a quick call or message to your local product specialist.
Great.